Okay. Can you guys see me? Okay. So I think I'm streaming now. Hello? Yeah. Okay. I've got the comments here, so if I keep looking here, then I'm just reading your comments. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm streaming now, so... Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ignore the comments for now, because I need to just sort of say what I wanted to say. So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Emma, and I just wanted to do a live stream just to sort of tell a bit of my side of the story, and I've just been kind of bombarded with questions and stuff, so I've given up on like answering them like just on tweets and stuff, so I just thought it's easiest just to come on to a live stream and just talk about it. Yeah. Okay, I don't even know where to start. So for people who don't know who I am, basically a few years ago I did an interview about the group, and then about a year after that, was it? Or a year and a half after that, I did another interview after I had joined the group. During that time, most of that time I haven't had any kind of online presence, so when the interviews came out, when the second interview came out, I didn't really see any of the responses that it got when it went on TV, and I didn't read all the comments, and I was totally out of the loop because I wasn't really on the internet. Recently, I have left the group, and it was probably a mistake, but I went back to those interviews, and obviously I couldn't see them when they went on TV, but they've been uploaded to YouTube, the clips, so I was in the YouTube comment section, and obviously there was a lot of nasty comments. Not all of them, but there was a lot of nasty comments, and I haven't had to deal with like the internet for so long, and I got upset and I replied to some of them, which is a silly thing to do because the comments were like from like over a year ago. But all in all, I popularised the interviews again, and I also, people figured that it was me who was replying to these comments, and so yeah, I've been flooded with a lot of questions, and I've been approached again to do another interview, which I've said no to because I don't want to deal with that. At first I kind of ran away from it, and I was just like, oh, I shouldn't have even started this, but actually I think it's going to be a good thing to get, to talk about it. Anyway, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna look at some of the... If there's something that you want me to talk about, then you can comment it, but bear in mind there's a lot to talk about, and I can't possibly say it all in this one live stream, but yeah, I'll just do as much as I can. Okay, so a lot of people are asking about the gardening scene. Let's just get that out of the way. In the second interview I did, there's a gardening scene and it's really awkward, and apparently it turned into a bit of a meme. I'm not mad that it turned into a meme. You know, it's quite funny, whatever. I was also reading a lot of the sort of theories that people were having about the gardening scene, and okay, let me just explain. So when I was approached to do the first interview, I hadn't joined the group yet, and I was honestly just really excited about, you know, the concept of maybe being on TV, and I didn't really understand why they were so interested, but I didn't really care. I was just excited about, you know, your little 5 minutes of fame or whatever being on TV. And so when the film crew came around to my house, they wanted to make sure that they had enough content, so they wanted to film me doing the yoga and, you know, showing them whatever, and I was like, yeah, cool, this is awesome. By the time the second interview came round, and this is another question that people had, was I allowed to even do that second interview? Because by that point I was like fully in the group. The answer is no, not really. I was not, the group was not, you know, they would not have wanted me to do the interview, and I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them that I was going to do it at the time, because I knew that they wouldn't want me to do it. Looking back, it's so naive, but honestly what was going through my mind when I was approached again to do a second interview, I knew the group wouldn't want me to do it, but in my head I was just kind of like, oh, but this could be a really good opportunity, you know, for the group to show the world that we're really great. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, after I've done this interview, you know, we're gonna get a huge influx of new members joining, because I'm gonna make it look so good, and I'm gonna show the world that we're not crazy and it's really great and everyone should join. Obviously that didn't happen, and the higher ups in the group knew that. That's why they always told us to just stay away from, you know, anything like that. Stay off the internet. Anything that's not a part of the group, just don't even read it, because it's all lies or whatever. Of course the higher ups in the group didn't want anyone, you know, doing interviews about the group, because how do you make a cult look good on camera? But at the time I was just like, thought that I could do it. Anyway, when the actual film crew arrived, that's like to my house, that's when that's when I realised that I'd kind of made a big mistake. It's going to take so long to explain all of this, but just bear with me. When you're in the group, no matter what you say to other group members, they're going to agree, they're going to encourage you. It was, even if you came out with ridiculous things, as long as it was in favour of the group, we'd all feed off each other, we'd love it, you know, it was always encouraged, and nobody ever called each other out on their, you know, crazy things that they were saying. And so I got very used to it being really easy to convince people of whatever I was saying, or not necessarily convince them, but I never received any kind of, you never really challenged on it. As long as it was in favour of the group, then everyone was just like, oh yeah, good idea, or whatever. As soon as the film crew came in, I was suddenly brought back to the real world, and I suddenly realised that, these people are not brainwashed. They're not going to just blindly agree with everything that I say. And yeah, suddenly I realised that it was going to be really difficult to make the group look good on camera. So when the film crew was asking me for, they wanted their B-roll, they needed more footage, I said no to most of their ideas. They were like, can we film you doing this, can we film you doing that, what hobbies do you have, can we film you just living your life? And they, if they wanted to look at like some of the group's books that I had, and some of them, the ones that I had out in the second interview, they are the public leaflets and whatnot that the group had, but they are not the ones that the actual group members use. That's different. The ones that we showed to the public were a lot more tame, and they were made to sound, a lot more reasonable. But all of the stuff that I had was like actual group member stuff, so I couldn't show them any of it because I was panicking. Anyway, so yeah, it ended up in, they were just desperate to film something, so they filmed me drinking a cup of tea. They were like, do you still eat and drink? So yeah, you get this just shots of me just drinking a cup of tea, and then one of the film crew people was like, there are some plants outside your front door, do you like gardening? Can we film you doing some of that? And in my head I was immediately just like, no, I don't like gardening. The only reason I had those plants was because, it's one of the few things that you were like allowed, that wasn't like controversial to own when you were in the group. But I didn't say that to them. I was just like, oh yeah, I love gardening. I don't know gardening. All I could do was just water the plants. So yeah, there you go. That's the origin of that meme. It's just it's really awkward, but I don't know why they even left that in there. Why didn't they just not use it? I guess they just had a time slot to fill. Anyway, there you go, that's that. Okay, is there some more questions? Oh, okay. So another thing that's going around is basically people fighting over what the group is. Is it a cult? Is it just a nice little group? Let me just get this straight. So, it's a cult. As someone who was in it for a few years, it's a cult. For people who are confused about, what makes it a cult, why is it a cult, how is it different to other groups, there are a few defining factors there. The first one is that the group has people at the top, basically, who, people who like make the rules for the members, the cult leaders. Yeah, that's quite important, I would say, in like what makes it a cult and what doesn't. Obviously, in normal groups there are like people who run it, but it's a lot different. Another sort of defining factor that makes the group a cult is the fact that it's really difficult to leave. And I'm sure I'll answer this question in a minute because people have been asking me that as well. But with normal groups, if you decide one day like, oh, you know, I don't really want to be in this group anymore, you can just leave, and there's nothing really stopping you from just leaving. And not that there was something necessarily, well, there were kind of physical things stopping you from leaving the group, but it's really, really hard to leave a cult. And maybe I should leave it for the next question, but yeah, to the people who are, there are some really, really sweet people who are kind of saying, oh, you know, this group is getting so much hate, and maybe, you know, maybe we should just respect what they believe, and blah blah blah. And as much how, like, that's very sweet of you, but it is a cult. So that's why people are being so hateful about it. Obviously there are some people who are being really hateful about the group who haven't actually thought about the reasons why and are just sort of hating it for hating its sake. But someone who's come out of it, I don't think that it's a good thing. And yeah, I'm not going to be very supportive of the group. Yeah. I'm just going to look at the comments. Yeah, okay, so one of the biggest questions that is super annoying, but I understand why, but it's also just like super annoying, is basically like, oh, if it's so bad, if the group is so bad, why didn't you just leave? You know, why didn't you leave earlier? If it was that bad, like, why didn't you just leave it? Okay. The thing about cults, as I said, is that they make it really, really difficult to leave. Like, there is stuff in the teachings, in the culture, that they're specifically there so that it's difficult to leave. For example, one of the things that was mentioned in the last interview that I did when I was in the cult was the fact that I was no longer seeing my family, and rightly so, that concerned a lot of people. Yeah, when you join a cult, it's very us against them. And so if there's anyone in your life who isn't supportive of it, or who isn't willing to join with you, or is, you know, discouraging you from staying in it, then they're going to push you to push them away. Which is exactly what happened with me and my family, you know. My family obviously were very discouraging of me being in the group, and because of that, I would go to the group members and I'd be like, oh, I don't know what to do because they, you know, I don't think they're going to join, but I don't want to not see them, blah blah blah. And ultimately it was all about how, oh, well, you know, are they good for you, and blah blah blah. You lose a lot of friends when you join a cult. You lose a lot of friends, you lose your family sometimes, a lot of the time. I mean, when you're someone who's, no matter what someone says to you, you always try to bring it back to getting them to join your cult, people don't really want to hang out with you anymore. So basically what it comes down to is that you get very isolated. Your life is only the group, and if you want to leave, you've got nowhere else to go to, because everyone you know and everything you know is about the group. You've got, you know, you might, even if you really wanted to leave, there's no support for leaving, because you've pushed away everyone that you know who isn't in the group, and everyone else is in the group and they're not going to want you to leave. So yeah, there's that side of it where they make sure that you don't have anywhere else to go. There's also the actual sort of teachings that they teach you, like doubts. There was like a whole thing in the doctrine about doubts and how bad they are, and ultimately that was just there so that you felt awful if you ever doubted anything. And you need doubts. That's the only way that you get out of a false belief, is by considering that maybe it's not right. But if you're not allowed to consider that, if it's seen as such an awful thing, even just considering, it's seen as like a failing, then you're not gonna want to even consider the fact that it might not be real. And it's scary. It's scary to leave. Anyway, there's a lot with that, but let's just move on to another question. Why did you change your name? Yeah, so this is another thing. When I was in the cult, they very much encouraged you to change your name, because it was basically about like not being the person that you used to be. They just wanted to distance you as much as possible from who you were and from your own personality. Like they didn't want, you know, individual personalities in the group. They wanted the cult personality. They wanted that perfect kind of person who was basically just a little soldier for the group. And one of the easiest way to do that is, sort of pull you apart from who you are, is to just change your name. So yeah, there was a lot of that. Are the group members really nice, or is it all fake? Yeah, this is a weird one. I understand why this is being asked. When you first meet the group members, they're super nice, like extraordinarily nice, like almost creepily nice. I remember when I was first joining, I mentioned something to them about like being bored or something, because some of my friends were really busy, and because obviously they like ask you how you are, and because they're always wanting to talk to you. And because I mentioned that I had been a bit bored, they like made a point to ring me up, specifically like, oh, not to chat about, you know, the group or anything, just to have a catch up and see how you're doing, you know, just for fun, or oh, do you want to come with us because we're going to have a picnic on this day, do you want to come? And this was when I didn't really know them very well at all. They were just super duper nice. Anyway, so yeah, I understand why it's kind of like, is that real? Are they really nice, or are they just trying to get you to join? Well, look, I don't want to make people think that all the group members are like inherently terrible people or anything, because they're genuinely not. I love still a lot of the group members. They're still people, and they still have really great things about them, and I mean, they're people. Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not. But what I will say about that is probably two things. The first thing is that they will be super duper nice to you if you're a member, or if you have shown interest in the group, like if you could be a member. If you're not a member and have made it clear that you're never going to be a member, then they're not going to be overly nice to you. They'll just like, they're not going to be horrible to you, but they're not going to care, they're not going to help you. They're not going to go around and, you know, take food to you if you're ill or something, unless you are a member or you could be a member. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sort of it's not a part of the actual teachings of the group, but it's more about the sort of culture of the group. There was a massive culture of basically gossiping, because we were all very much sort of subtly taught that we needed to keep an eye on each other. Yeah. Because you have to, the best spies that you have are all of your members, if you're, you know, a cult leader. And if there's any of the members that are starting to, you know, show a bit of critical thinking or some doubts or whatever, then you need to like cut that off straight away. So even like my closest friend in the group, I didn't feel comfortable sharing doubts with her, because I knew, as much as I loved her, I knew that she was gonna go to someone else and tell them, they were gonna tell someone else, and eventually it would be all around the group, and it would be really awkward in the meetings, because you could just sort of feel judged. Yeah. Yeah. So it was just, there were a lot of things about the group where it was more of like a culture of the group thing that was not great, rather than it actually being in writing. What actually are the group's beliefs? Okay, I'm not going to go into detail on all the group's beliefs, because that would take a long time. They do have a website. There is the group website. Now, on that website, that is the public-facing website. So, even though what's on there is true, it's a very watered down, more reasonable version of what we believed. If you'll notice, there's a login at the top. That was for members only. So I had a login, and you could log in, and it was basically the same website, apart from, you know, it was the same like articles, but the articles were slightly different if you were logged in, because they were basically just like more extreme. Because to the public you don't want to just tell them all the extreme beliefs that you have, because then, yeah, it's because they're crazy beliefs. And for the members have been drip fed these beliefs over a year or years, so that's the only reason they will accept the crazy stuff, because they've been very slowly, like, you know, built up to you know, to accept it. Yeah. So you can look on the website and you will find out what the beliefs are. But yeah, they are slightly different, but anyway, okay. Okay, last question, because this is not fun. How did you escape? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like an instant process. It did take a while, and it was, once you have a doubt, it's so easy for that to just, in the back of your mind, it just grows and grows and grows, and you can't get rid of it. And even though the group had techniques for getting rid of that, it never really went for me. And slowly, I guess, more and more things kept happening that would like add to that doubt in the back of my mind. And then one day, especially when I did the second interview, when I was in the group already, because when they found out that I did that, that was not good. It's quite scary, you know. They call you up and you have a meeting, like a private meeting with some of the higher ups, and I was so scared going into that meeting. I thought that they were going to kick me out of the group. I think the only reason that they didn't was because it was so obvious that I genuinely thought that I was doing a good thing for the group. Like, I was distraught that they thought that I'd done a really bad thing for the group. And I was just like crying my eyes out because I couldn't believe that I'd made the group look bad. And yeah, so, but actually that experience of how they treated me, even though they didn't end up kicking me out, at first it drove me deeper into the beliefs, I think, but eventually, after I had all these other little things that were, you know, plaguing my mind, eventually I looked back on that and I realised how culty it was, that how they dealt with that and how suspicious it was. So that was actually a major help for me to wake up. Yeah. Yeah. It's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. And I'm still in the process of sort of trying to get out of that mindset, because it's really not an overnight thing. Because when you've been taught that so deeply, taught all of these things so deeply, and you've genuinely really believed it and been convinced, it's like you have to work on unlearning everything that you've learned. Yeah. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go shortly. I'm not gonna answer any more questions. Maybe I'll do another one of these another time, but I need a break now. Hopefully that answered at least some people's questions. Before I go, I want to just say even though most people aren't, you know, gonna accidentally join a cult, there are still culty things that happen in a lot of places. Like, not full-blown cults, but there's a lot of like culty behaviour that I've seen since I've left, and that concerns me. And I want to just sort of, I want to say to everyone, in your own lives, in whatever way it might be, how can I put this? Evidence is important. And if someone's got you to a point where you feel like you can't question anything that they've said, because you don't want to offend them, you can't question anything that they've said, then that should be a big warning sign for you. Nobody is above criticism. And yeah, please please think about the things that you believe, and think about, what method have I used to come to this belief? Is that method a good one, or is that method just based off, how much I like the belief, or if it's comforting, or if someone else has told me to believe it? Yeah, just have your own mind, and think for yourself, because obviously most people aren't going to be in the position that I was in, but I don't want anyone to even be slightly in that kind of situation. So it's okay to doubt things. In fact, it's really good to question things. And yeah, just have a think about, the things that you believe, and just have a think, is this based off evidence? And even if it is based off evidence, think about, is your level of confidence in that belief, in that claim, in that whatever it is, does that match up with the amount of evidence that you have? Or are you way more committed than the evidence really? Yeah. Okay, I need to just go now. Thank you everyone for listening. Bye.